So then 2 nights later, we decided to pick back up. It was the next time we were all available to game again, and it was great because I'd had a little more time. I'd actually had the offending tooth removed and was on excellent pain medication the following day, so I was feeling no pain there. And we actually all got back together, and minus the halfling. Varkin, yeah. Unfortunately, Varkin had other plans that evening. He was unable to make it, and he just couldn't be there. Fortunately, though, we did have another member to our party able to show that night. Dark Age of Jason showed up early that night, rolled himself a character up, and so I got to do one of my most favorite things, whereas that is introduce an outside member to the group. And instead of just, and so-and-so shows up. No, I always like to work it in. So the next morning, that evening, we had ended the previous session in encountering these 2 ogres. We hadn't combated them yet. So they do combat with these 2 ogres and dispatch them rather easily. So then this room, they find a bag squirming in the corner. And after longer than I believed it needed to be deliberation, they decide to open it. And I love this party because it's like they overthink, but I'm not complaining. Keep it up, guys. It's great. They could have just said, "And we opened the bag," and I'd have been like, "Yep, you got it open." But no, it says, "Well, I'm going to hold the bag, and you swing at the bag with your weapon." Before I believe they really thought that deep into it, they realized that the person who was going to swing at the weapon, the only melee weapon she had was she had a warhammer. That's going to be an interesting way that you're not going to open the bag. You're going to smash whatever's inside the skull. But okay, yeah. There's no. I borrowed your knife. Remember, that's right. Yeah. So we cut the bag open, and I'm just having a ball with this. Yeah, I let him go with it. And yeah, the bag inside they find this cleric. A half-elven cleric by the name of Andrus. And they cut his binds and take off his gag, and he has no idea. He has no memory of how he ended up in this bag or in this room or in this any of this situation. All he knew is last he knew he was sitting in a bar in Haven enjoying a nice drink, and then he woke up inside a bag. So they search the room and they find this altar, and I suppose if they'd made some more successful search checks, they would have found Marcus's journal in his desk explaining that he had been taking the prisoners back into this hidden crawl space where he converted them to undead. And searching the altar, they find a floor panel that gives way and dumps some of them into another hidden hallway. And I'm getting a little cliche with the hallways here, but hey, I was having fun drawing maps. So they find this hidden passage. And then this passage is a 15-foot wide hallway leading down to turning to the left, where they can see some light coming through. And as they come down the hallway, they decide to take it very stealthily and carefully, and they overhear what ends up to be 2 drow arguing over what they should have done with the cleric in the bag. And I don't know, I kind of I think I wasn't really paying attention, but I'd actually placed the 2 youngest party members at the table right next to each other. That probably wasn't a great idea, as one of them's 10 and the other one's 11. So I was given the opportunity to not only be a DM in holding the party together, but also a parent in telling my son to pay attention. I suddenly I asked them once, well, let's stay together. Let's not just talk over each other. And then eventually said, okay, well, let's make a stealth check. And as they failed it, the drow look up, suddenly hearing the orcs just babbling off in the corner, and attack. And well, it's 2 drow warriors versus 6 skilled combatants, and they lose. But as they come down the corner to fight these drow, they also see there's a mage in the corner doing something. And as soon as they take care of these 2 drow warriors, the mage runs to the staircase and casts something down the stairs, some blue light. And they couldn't identify what kind of spell or what kind of signal or anything that really was, just that he'd cast a blue light down the stairs with his wand. And the next turn, up from the staircase, came a drow cleric, which we all know could be a truly terrifying thing, and a drow weapon master. They'd come to assist. and what sounds like a loud clanging coming up the stairs. That hadn't arrived yet, whatever it was. So the party goes on to a couple more rounds of combat, wherein they successfully kill off first the cleric and then the weapon master. It was really good play. I liked it. It was Andrus, our cleric, had decided to actually not only buff the party but curse the cleric before, making it harder for her to do any great damage, which is good because she was obviously the most dangerous, malicious of the group, attacking them. So after taking care of those two, they take care of the wizard, and just before the wizard, and as they kill the wizard, the clanging coming up the stairs stops. And so now they've got these two unconscious warriors. They decided not to pull the last punch on the two first warriors they'd fought, because they wanted to interrogate them. And as they interrogate them, they untie the first one's mouth, and it's just a blubbering idiot. He's a little nothing follower, fighter, poor, not even level 1, I'd say, barely passed through the Drow Academy. And straight enough, I rolled a morale check, and he failed miserably. I think I rolled a 1. And so he wets himself, and he's crying, begging them not to kill him. And he says, "I'll tell you anything," but I don't know anything. So he ended up being pretty much useless. They just re-gag him and leave him in the corner. Then they decided to take probably, I think they spent a good 10 minutes deciding how they were going to interrogate the next Drow, because he'd been identified by the lesser Drow as the squad captain. So maybe he held far more information than he had. So they decide they're going to take the body of the cleric and hold it up and pretend that it's still alive and threaten it while they're interrogating him. And I thought, heck, why not? We'll go for that. They wake him up, and first they've got the two half orcs growling in his face, and then it's a Drow squad captain. He's not scared of that. He's killed scarier things than that in his sleep. So yeah, he passed through that, and he says, I think he looked at the half elf, because the half elven ranger and Andrus, our cleric, had been interpreting, as they both spoke Elven, and no one else in the party did. So he pretty much says, your dogs don't scare me, woman. Get your smelly grubs off me, or whatever. And then they see the human ranger holding up the, dead body of the cleric, and I made an intelligence check again. He was unaware that the cleric had been killed already. So he'd been unconscious for that part of the combat. And he says, well, wait, no, don't harm my matron, I'll talk, what do you want to know? And they questioned him, and he unearthed some of his plot of kidnapping city officials and magic users and clerics to brainwash them and turn them to fight for the Drow as insurgents, essentially, because they were attempting to overthrow Haven. And after a couple minutes of this type of interrogation, he decides to go for a magical item in his armor that was, if he'd gotten away with it, I was going to have him turn into a Drider and have maybe one last big combat with these guys. And they all make a dexterity check to see if they can stop him squirming for this item on his chest. And my son rolls a 20. Leave it to your own kids to roll the nat 20 and throw a chink in your armor, man. That's just not right. And this is, it's a natural 20. I got to give it to him. Yep, you grab his hand before he even gets to it, and so they killed him. And that was the end of the dungeon delve, I suppose. They investigated a little more, found a scroll on the body of the cleric. They found what else? Some spell components on the wizard and weaponry and whatnot. Went downstairs, finding a de-animated clay golem that had been coming up the stairs to do battle with them, and I think one of the orcs decided to keep its hand that had been crafted to look like a mace, so they has this giant mace hand in his pack now. And as they got downstairs, they found another chamber, much smaller, that had a wall caved in, and obviously where the Drow had made their way into the Haven under the hidden passage under the jail. and they notice footprints in the sand heading back out into the cave, into the underground caves, just about the size of Jailer Marcus's feet. Thank you for listening, and hopefully we'll have more to come.